up, guys? It's your girl Matt Cox from MA Couture Crafting. And yes, we're doing another 3-yard quilt. This time we're working in the Easy Peasy book. Are you guys surprised? So we're working in this book here. And I chose to do the dash pattern, which is right there. And the reason why I chose that particular pattern is because it has those super large gray and red squares. And I knew this fabric, this Barbie fabric, what? Riley Blake hooked it up with the Barbie fabric. I knew from the moment that I saw it that I wanted to use it. I was just like, how? And the pattern that she already has wasn't really my style. So I was like, dang, what can I do? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to incorporate that within a 3-yard quilt and we're going to zhuzh it up just a bit. And it worked out really well. I'm really pleased with how this came out. I really wanted it to have a fashionista kind of vibe, and it definitely does. If you see the quilting, which is amazing, it's, I don't know if you can see it here, nail polish, lipstick, what? Blush, eyeshadow. The person who I'm giving this to better be lucky that this is leaving the house because it is right up my alley. The fabrics were really, really cool. They have the actual Barbie logos on them. You know a mile away that this is Barbie. And I loved that striped fabric right there in the middle that has the word Barbie going through it. The only thing I will say is she has 2 panels for this. She has a color blocked one, which is the one I use. And when I say color blocked, it's just pink and black. It might have some white on it. I think it's just pink and black though. And then she had a white Barbie. And I'm like, dang, it would have been great if she had had a black Barbie. That would have been the one that I would have wanted. It would have just really set this quilt off even more. But no worries. I used the color block Barbie and I zhuzhed up this quilt. So let me tell you kind of how I did it. When I look at these patterns, I see blocks. And so I'm like, well, if they're just blocks, I know that I could take a bigger block, which would be my panel, and just throw it in there. And that's exactly what I did. I set out to make a twin. So I bought enough fabric to make a twin. And I did the top just as the directions say. And then once I got to the bottom section where I thought the panel would go, I just kept doing the left-hand side of the quilt. And then I just put this one on the panel, the large panel on the right-hand side, and sewed them together and then sewed this together. It doesn't have to be much more complicated in the explanation than that. And with the panel, there's usually some borders on it. So I knew that I could cut the borders off or add a border to size it up however large I needed it so that it matched this the blocks on the left. It's just as simple as that. When you see it, you'll see me run into some bumps here and there, but it was nothing major. At the end of the day, I did the top and then I did the left and then I threw that panel on there and then it just came together. I knew that there were some things that I wanted to do, like the border. I didn't want it to go all the way around the quilt. You know, I had to get a little funky with it because it wouldn't be my quilt if it wasn't a little askew or different. And for the back, I threw on this beautiful, oh my goodness, the colors are so colorful. And it's another wide back. I didn't piece this back, but that's because it's like a rainbow zebra print. What? Does it get much more fashionista than that? I think not. You guys, if you haven't done so already, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you'd like to see how this all comes together, please continue watching. Please leave me comments. I love, love, love to talk to you guys in the comment section. And I will see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye. Ooh, look at that quilt. Okay. So I am laying out the fabrics that I have. I'm looking at the different sizes that they are. I'm trying to figure out exactly where which fabric is going to go. And I'm checking out that some of them are directional. So I've got to be careful about which direction I cut these so that when I place them in the blocks, they make sense. And I'm doing a quick measure here to see how wide this panel is. And then I just draw it out and sketch it out and write down the things so that I don't forget. And again, when I see this pattern, I'm like, it works. And I figured it would work also because between each of the rows, there's a sash. So it's not like I really have to line this puppy up very well because there's a sash to break it up if I'm a little off, right or left. Now this Barbie fabric right here is definitely directional. So I'm going to use it in the big blocks and that's not going to be a problem because I will easily be able to turn it this direction that you see right side up without a problem. I'm not going to have to worry about the other blocks turning or twisting or anything like that because you just sew this guy in just as you see it here. I think, You might put some, yeah, you sew these squares just as you see them. You don't even put borders on them, which is cool. And I'm going to do the same thing for this fabric. So this is going to give me, like, one of them will be the black and one of them will be the red. This is non-directional, sort of. I'm going to say that it's non-directional. I've decided that it's non-directional, even though it's kind of directional. I feel like there are more in one direction than the other direction, but that's okay because they do kind of dance all around. And I've decided that this is going to be the background. So this is going to be the base for everything because, again, it's non-directional. So it was my best option. So I'm cutting all of the strips according to the directions. And of course, this is in my pattern, so I can't give you the dimensions, but you get the gist. So this is where it got a little funky because this is me taking it out because I realized that that striped fabric was not running the proper direction. That is absolutely directional fabric. The Barbie is only on there one way. And in order for it to sit the way that I need it to in the block, I had to cut it this way, which is going to look a little weird. These strips are going to be really long. And thank God I had enough fabric to do this because I had to cut, as opposed to selvage, I had to cut the lengthwise direction. So it all worked out. I had enough fabric to do so. But as you see, I'm cutting with the lines, not across the lines. And it all worked out. So now the Barbie is straight. It says Barbie in between the lines. And then I can throw the non-directional fabric on the top. And that all worked itself out. So now I need to cut a bunch of substrips, I guess you can say, because they're strips that have already been pieced. And now we are just going to cut some more little subsections. And so I just took a little off the side there. And now I am cutting these strips. Now I've got to put these borders on these strips. This quilt took me a little while because I was, playing with the fabric. Some of my fabrics are directional. But other than that, this quilt goes together pretty quickly too. Honestly, it's not a super duper hard sew. I just sewed two sides onto that. See? Just like that. Just sew two sides. I think it's so interesting that now my blocks actually finish the size that they're supposed to. So then you just stagger them. You've got one small block, then a big square, then a small square, then a big square. And I did that for the top 4 rows, I think. I think I chose 4 rows. And then you just sew them all together. Now I threw the borders on premature. So I had to come back and do some work with that, but it really wasn't that big of a deal. And I think I decided that I wanted to come in and do a couple more rows on the top. We'll see. So some more strips, because these are going to be the borders. And I cut these so that when you're looking at the quilt, you see that the Barbie her head is the proper direction all the way around, which I'm glad that I bought enough fabric to do a twin, because I screwed up some of the fabric and then you don't need all of it, but it was nice. So see, now all the fabric goes that direction, goes the proper direction. And again, I'm just cutting border strips right now. And we're going to put the borders on the right hand side because I want the borders to actually stop at the panel. See, the borders stop at the panel. And I did 1, 2, 3 rows at the top. I thought I did 4. 1, 2, no, I did 3 rows at the top. And now I'm filling in what's going to be to the left of the panel. I wanted to make sure that the left-hand side all laid out according to the pattern. So instead of just sewing all these together and cutting it down on the left-hand side, I pieced it all together and cut the right-hand side of the squares after I've sewn them together. So you see how it's overlapping that panel? No worries. I'm going to just chop that off after I sew it all together to measure it, just so that the pattern appears to be continuous on the left-hand side of this quilt. If you are a beginner, this is probably not making any sense to you. If you are a quilter, you've been doing this for a while, you get it. And that's okay. Not a big deal. This is probably one of the more advanced 3-yard quilts that I've done. So I realized that I needed to do the full set of blocks. So I did a big square, a small square, big square, small square, and I did that all the way down. Even though I knew that I was going to have to cut a bit of it off, I needed to do the whole thing so that I didn't have any gaps or anything like that. So I pieced it in, and now I've sewn all those blocks together on the left-hand side. So we're going to sew the Barbie panel to those. And it's going to be too wide, but we're okay. Actually, I cut it before. No, you can't do that. I cut it before I sewed it. I had to measure. And I'm looking at how much I have left at the bottom. And I was like, oh, the sashing. I'll just make a wider sashing to take care of that, to compensate for that length at the bottom. So I measured to see how much longer that sashing at the bottom needed to be. And now I'm going to lay it out again. So all I did was piece those squares on the left, and now I'm measuring it to see how wide I need that panel to be. And once I got that measurement, I went and cut that panel down. Leaving the left side intact, I cut the panel on the right-hand side. I didn't care where that landed. I had to pick and choose. It was more important that the left-hand side look nice than the right. The right still looks fine. It's just, that's what we had to do. So then I sewed the panel to the Barbie. So I'm cutting it off with courage, cut with courage. And now we're going to sew Barbie to that. Then we're going to press it out, and bam, that's what we got. And then we're going to sew those 2 pieces to the top. And it came out pretty even. I'm really pleased with it. Who'd have thunk it? And then I just walked around it and decided to sew that panel to the top. It looks like I did do 4 blocks at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4. I did do 4 rows at the top. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.